Hello everybody, myself Prashant Mukhopadhyay, faculty member, Electrical Engineering Department, Greater Kolkata College of Engineering and Management. So in our last class of this power electronics and drives, we have discussed about the triple pipe timer IC, its pin configuration, its basics, its timing circuits, and principle of working principle. So today we'll start the triple pipe timer, how it can be used as astable, monostable and bistable multivibrator circuit. Before we have already discussed this multivibrator circuits using op-amp. Now we'll see how a triple pipe timer can be used in as a astable, monostable and bistable multivibrator circuit. So we'll start with our study with the astable multivibrator circuit with using IC triple pipe timer first. So that will we will discuss about its circuits, operation, duty cycle and applications of astable multivibrators for square wave generation, pulse position modulations, pulse trends, and frequency modulations with this astable multivibrator. So let us start the circuit and operations. If we say recollect our last class, it will be easier for us to understand the circuit and operations. An astable multivibrator is also called a free running multivibrator. We have already discussed why it is called free running multivibrators when we are talking about the astable multivibrator using op-amp circuit. So we know the why it is called free running multivibrator. So since it has no stable states and continuously switches between the two states without application of any external trigger, that's why it is called a free running. So it can say switch from one state to another, and that is why it doesn't have any stable states. So that's why it is astable. So IC triple pipe can be made to work as an astable multivibrator with addition of three external components, two resistors R1 and R2 and a capacitor. So a schematic diagram of triple pipe IC as a astable multivibrator along with three external components is shown here. These are the three external components R1, R2 and this capacitor C. This is the triple pipe timer IC. This pin 2 and pin 6 are connected, hence so there is no need for any external trigger pulse. So that we have seen when we are discussing about the working principle of the triple pipe timer in our last class. So since these are sorted, so that means no external trigger pulse is required, and it will self trigger and act as a free running multivibrator. So the reset of the connections are as shown like this. Pin 8 is connected to the supply voltage, this is VCC. Pin 3 is connected to the output terminal, and hence the output is available at this pin. Pin 4 is the external reset pin, and it is a momentary low on this pin will reset the timer that we have discussed in our last class. So pin 4 is the external reset pin, and when there is a momentary low position of this pin will reset the timer. Hence, there when it is not in use, pin 4 is usually tied with VCC, that is connected with pin 8. Okay, that is shown here. The control voltage applied at pin 5, this one, will change the threshold voltage level, uh, but for normal use, pin 5 is connected to ground via this capacitor, usually of 0.01 microfarad. So the external noise from the terminal is filtered out, and pin 1 is usually the ground terminal, and the timing circuit that determines the width of the output pulse is made up of this R1, R2, and this C. Okay, so that is about the schematic of this table 5 IC timer as stable multivibrator. Now, how it operates, the operation. So, see, this is the schematic circuit diagram which will say that, depicts the internal circuit of the table 5 IC operating in stable mode. RC timing components, this is RC timing components, that is R1, R2, and C. Initially, on power off, the flip-flop is reset, and hence the output of the timer is low. Output of the timer is low, and as a result, the discharge transistors, this is the discharge transistors. Okay, so discharge transistor is driven to saturation, so as it is connected to complementary Q or Q prime, and the capacitor C of the timing circuit is connected to pin 7 of the this IC 555. Okay, pin 7, and will discharge through the transistors. So this is the discharge part. Okay, through the transistors. The output of the timer at this point is low. This output is low, and the voltage across the capacitor is nothing but the trigger voltage. This voltage is the trigger voltage. Okay. So the while discharging, if capacitor voltage becomes less than 1/3 of supply voltage VCC, which is the reference voltage to trigger comparator 2, that is the lower comparator. So the output of the comparator 2 will become high. This output of the comparator 2 will become high, and this will set the flip-flop. Okay, this set the flip-flop, and hence the output of the timer pin 3 goes to high. This one. Okay, so this high output will turn off the transistors, and as a result the capacitor C starts charging through resistors R1 and R2. This is the charging part. Okay. So now capacitor voltage is same as the threshold voltage, because this one, this is connected to this here. This is the upper comparator, comparator 1, so where the threshold voltage is given actually. So so because as pin 6 is connected to the threshold, connected to capacitor resistor junction, so while charging, the capacitor voltage increases exponentially towards the supply voltage VCC, and the moment it crosses 2/3 of the supply voltage VCC, which is the reference voltage to threshold comparator, that is comparator 1, its output becomes high. Okay, yeah, it is clear. So As a result, the flip-flop is reset. The output of the timer falls to low. This low output will once again turn on the transistor, which provides a discharge path to the capacitor. Whenever this transistor, when it is low, this transistors will be on, and this capacitor will discharge to this one. Okay. Now, so and hence the way the circuit will continues. Thus, when the capacitor is charging, the voltage across the capacitor rises exponentially, and the output voltage at pin 3 is high. Similarly, when the capacitor is discharging, the voltage across the capacitor falls exponentially, and the output voltage at pin 3 is low. And the shape of the output waveform is then a train of rectangular pulses, and the waveforms of the capacitor voltage and the output of this stable multivibrator is shown here. Okay, so this is charging, this is discharging, this is charging of the capacitor through R1 and R2, and this is discharging through R2. So this will follow the cycle. So this is the threshold voltage, the full charges voltage, which is 2/3 of the supply voltage, the capacitor voltage, and this is the trigger voltage when it is low here. So this is the charging capacitor charging time. This is discharging time, and if you, so in that case, if you show the output waveform, so this will be like this, and we are finding here this time constant of this path is R1 plus R2 into C. This will, so it is more, and this is time constant of the discharge part. So this is R2 into C. So this is turn off, and this is the total time period. Okay. So while charging, the capacitor charges through the resistor R1 and R2, and as I told you, the charging time constant is R1 plus R2 into the C, and the total resistance in the charging part is R1 plus R2, and while for the discharging part, the total resistance is only R2, and the discharging time constant is R2 into C. So that is shown here, and we have discussed here. This is the charging part, okay, and this is discharging part here. So this is only, this R2 is in the discharging part, and in charging part of the capacitor, this is R1 and R2, both are present. So, and that's why the capacitor voltage, this is charging to R1 R2, this is discharging to R2. So it is repeating. So this is the charging time constant, it is discharging time constant, this is the total time. Okay, and this is the output voltage trim. Clear? So with this we can say see the operation of the table 5 timer as a stable multivibrator. Now we'll talk about the duty cycle. So duty cycle, basically this is the charging and discharging time constant depends on the value of the resistors R1 and R2. Generally the charging time constant is more than the discharging time constant, because charging time constant is R1 plus R2 into C. Hence the high output remains longer than the low output, where say discharging time constant is R2 into C, and therefore the output waveform is not symmetric, what we have seen. So this is more, this is less. So not symmetric. Duty cycle is the mathematical parameter that forms a relation between the high output and the low output. So duty cycle is defined as the ratio of the time of high output, that is the on time, to the total time of a cycle, that is T on by T, where T is T on plus T off. So if we say T on is the time for high output, and T is the time period of one cycle, then the duty cycle D is given by D equal to ratio of T on and T, that is T on by T. So percentage duty cycle is given by percentage. So percentage D equal to turn on by T multiplied by 100. So that means T is the summation of turn on, that is charging time TC, and turn off, that is discharging time TD. So the value of turn on or charging time, charge time for high output is TC is given by 0.693 into R1 plus R2 into C, and value of turn off, this is the discharge time for low output, that is TD is given by 0.693 into R2 into C. So therefore the time period for one cycle T is given by turn on plus turn off, that is equal to charging time TC plus discharging time TD. So if we put these values here, so it will turn total time period will be T equal to 0.693 into R1 plus R2 into C plus 0.69C into R2 into C. So if we take 0.693 common, so it will be 0.693 into R1 plus 2R2 into C. Okay. So therefore this percentage D, that is the percentage duty cycle, so will be how much? That is turn on by say a time period multiplied by 100. So therefore if you put this value here, so this will percentage D will be 0.693 into R1 plus R2 into C divided by 0.693 into R1 plus 2R2 into C, so into say 100, so to convert it into the percentage. So therefore percentage duty cycle percentage D should be equal to R1 plus 2R2 divided by R1 plus 2R2 into CC cancel out, so it will be actually see, there is a mistake here. So this will be R1 plus R2 divided by R1 plus 2R2 into R2 into 100. Okay. So if T is 0.690 R1 plus 2R2 into C, then the frequency F is given by F equal to 1 by T, that is 1 by 0.693 into R1 plus 2R2 into C. So therefore it will be 1.44 divided by R1 plus 2R2 into C hertz. So selection of this R1, R2 and C1 for different frequency range are as follows, like this. This is the table given. R1 and R2 should be in the range of 1 kilo to 1 megohm. So it is best to choose this C1 or C. Yes, if C actually first, because the capacitors are available in just a few values as per the frequency range from this table. Choose R2 to give the frequency of say required frequency, R2 equal to 0.693, that is 0.7 divided by F into C1. So if it is C, it is by C1. So choose R1 to be about the 10th of R2. That is, if it is 10 kilo ohm, so it will be 1 kilo, like this. R2 should be equal to R2 1 kilo minimum. That is this R1 should be 1 kilo minimum. So if say for C1 equal to 0.001 microfarad, R2 10 kilo, R1 1/10 of this, that meant 1 kilo, or your frequency will coming at a 68 kilohertz. In this way, if R2 is 100 kilo, R1 is 10 kilo, for this C, that is 0.001 microfarad, it will be 6.8 kilohertz. If this again multiplied by e bar to 1 meg ohm, R1 is 100 kilo ohm, so it will be 680 hertz for same 0.001 microfarad. So in this way, if we go for 0.01 microfarad, it will for the same value of this, it will be 6.8 kilohertz, and for this up to 100 kilo ohm and R1 10 kilo ohm, it will be 680 hertz. If R2 is 1 mega ohm, R1 is 100 kilo ohm, and C is 0.01 microfarad, you will get it is 60 hertz, 60 kilohertz, of course. There is something wrong with that. So this will be kilohertz actually. So in this way, you will get the different frequency level by selecting this table. Okay. Now with this, we'll say complete this stable multivibrator working. Its duty cycle. Its duty cycle, of course, working. We have already seen operation. Now we'll say discuss about some application of a stable multivibrator using this table 5 timer. Here, let us start with table 5 timer IC as a stable multivibrator for square wave generation. So duty cycle of an stable multivibrator is always greater than 50%. That means because duty cycle is T turn on by T, and this turn on is greater than turn off. So T on is greater than T off. So of course it will be always greater than 50%. A square wave is obtained as the output of an stable multivibrator when the duty cycle is 50% exactly. If it is exactly 50%, that means charging time is equal to the discharging time. So that means this waveform will no longer will be the charging time more, discharging time less. So it will be just exactly equal, and as a result, you will get the exact square wave generation will be possible by stable multivibrator. If the duty cycle is exactly 50% exactly. So duty cycle of 50% or anything less than that is not possible. Of course, not possible. So it is at best it will be turn on and turn off time will be same. Okay, that is also very difficult. So that is not possible with IC table 5 as an stable multivibrator. So some modifications are to be made to the circuit therefore. The modification is to add two diodes, one diode in parallel to the resistor of R2 with cathode facing the capacitor, and anode diode in series with the resistor R2. With anode facing R2 with anode facing the capacitor. So by adjusting the value of the resistors around to duty cycle in the range of 5% to 95% can be obtained, including the square wave output. So the circuit for the square wave generation will be, in that case, it will be like this. See, the two diodes are connected D1 and D2 in this way. So in this circuit, actually, everything is same what we have seen earlier. So only difference is this inclusion of these two diodes across in series with parallel across R2. Okay, D1 and D2 actually. So in this circuit, while charging, the capacitor charges to R1. Okay, this part, because this is diode is not unless and it is forward bias, it cannot go through this. So if this is forward bias, so this will be the charging part. So R1 D1 is the path of charging the capacitor, bypassing this R2. So while discharging, it discharges to this part, D2 and R2. Okay, so therefore the charging time constant is T1 equal to Tc and is given by 0.693 into R1 into C, and discharging time constant T of, that is Td, is given by 0.69 into R2 into C. Therefore the duty cycle is given by R1 by R1 plus R2, and in order to get square wave, the duty cycle can be made 50% by making the value of R1 and R2 equal. See here, if these are two equal, say R1 equal to R2 equal to R, so it will be R by 2R, so it is just half, 50%. So by making the values of R1 and R2 equal, the waveform of the square wave in that case will be, this is the charging path through R1 and D1. This is discharging part through D2 and R2. So this is charging time, and this is discharging time, both are same. This is the capacitor voltage. Okay, so in that case you will get the exact square wave. Okay, exact square wave. Clear? So T is equal to Td, so percentage duty cycle will be 50%. So a duty cycle of less than 50% is also achieved when the resistance R1 is less than that of R2, and generally this can be achieved by using potentiometer in place of R1. So if we put a potentiometer here in place of this R1, so that is possible. So if R1 is replaced by a potentiometer. Okay, so another circuit square generator can be constructed from the stable multivoltmeter without using any diodes also, by placing the resistors R2 between pins 2 and 3, that is output terminal and trigger terminal. This circuit is shown here. Yeah, this is 2 and this is 3. Okay. So this is R2 is placed in place of 2 and 3. So in this circuit, both the charging and discharging operations occur through the resistors R2. Here discharging, and the resistor R1 should be high enough not to interfere with the capacitor when charging. So it is also used to ensure that the capacitor charges to the maximum limit, that is the supply voltage VCC. Okay, so this is another circuit for using this square wave generations. Okay, so this can be used with the modifications of this, not modifications, actually this is another alternative circuits. So this is one by using two diodes across R2. This is charging path and this is discharging path. Okay, so by selecting R1 equal to R2, you can get the just fully square. And another circuit with be formed by connecting R2 between pin 2 and 3. So R1 should be high enough not to interfere with the capacitor while charging. So it is also used to ensure that the capacitor charges the maximum limit VCC. So this is the most important application of say stable multivoltmeter as square wave generator. So I think all of you got it, and if you So I told you that this square wave generator can be either by using this circuit or by using these circuits. Okay.